What's up, Outer Banks, and welcome to a new episode of OBXE TV, where we give you the inside scoop on what's happening in the local and regional entertainment world. I'm Sue Artz. First up, I'm going to tell you about some of the top trending stories right now at OBXentertainment.com, starting with the latest concert news. Brew recently announced an impressive lineup of bands coming to the Outer Banks as part of their summer concert series at Roanoke Island Festival Park. This includes Bruce Hornsby on June 26th, Live and Cracker on July 10th, and Jim Blossoms and the Spin Doctors on July 17th. North Carolina's surf rock legend Southern Culture on the Skids will return to Hatteras Island to headline the second annual Rock the Cape Festival on May 30th at the Carew Village Beach Club in Avon to benefit the Dare County Arts Council. In NC film news, the very funny Kristen Wiig will be in Wilmington, North Carolina in May, shooting her new comedy drama, The Heart, which will arrive in theaters in 2015. You can get full details on each of these stories, plus our Bike Week coverage and a whole lot more right now at OBXentertainment.com. Today, we're so excited to have a very special guest with us. She is an award-winning author whose books have entertained and educated generations of children about the joys of nature, and she is a true Outer Banks icon. I am honored to welcome the very talented Suzanne Tate. Hey Suzanne, thanks so much for being here with us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So what brought you to the Outer Banks?
Well, what brought me to the Outer Banks is that I met and married Everett Tate, a native of Duck, and his dream was always to come home and have a bait and tackle shop, and so different events happened that led us to that. One of them was that our shrimp boat sank. We were shrimping in South Carolina, and so we decided to come to Duck, which I had fallen in love with anyway previously, and had been tuning up to move to Duck because I really was fascinated with the rural aspect of it, and I always loved nature, and that's what brought me to Duck.
Nice. So were you writing before you moved to Duck, or?
I've been writing all of my life. When I was a child, I published a little newspaper, and I sold it to my classmates for 1 cent.
Wow.
And back in those days, you didn't have copiers, so I typed every issue, and I don't remember how many of them I sold, but anyway, I've always been writing.
Wow. So I bet the Outer Banks definitely inspired you to write several books.
The Outer Banks. And in particular, my late husband's fishing.
Mm-hmm.
His family was a fishing family, many generations. And now I'm married to another North Carolinian, Billy Gray. And he grew up on Hatteras Island. And so I've really become immersed in the life of the Outer Banks.
That's great. Now, are most of your children, now you've written is it all children's books, or have you written other things besides?
Before I wrote the first children's book, I wrote Bring Me Duck. Originally it was called DuckTales, but then Disney came out with DuckTales,
Mm-hmm.
and but I had DuckTales before they did.
Oh.
And so I changed it to Bring Me Duck. We've been publishing that book since 1986, and still keeping it in print because it was an oral history and had a lot of history in it that people wouldn't know about today except for that book.
Right. Wow, that's great. I know we were looking through our bookcase, and because I know I had one of your books from somewhere along the line, because we have 2 sons, and I came up with a spunky spot here. Are all of your children's books based on like the sea and the ocean, pretty much?
Well, not all of them, but the Suzanne Tate's nature series is the most popular, the most distributed, because it can, you know, a lot of people can relate to it outside the Outer Banks. I did write oral history tales for children, 5 of them, and most of them had to do with local events. Well, all of them did. And the only ones of those that sell away from the Outer Banks are the ones about the Wright brothers, because of course they're so well known. And one of those is Helping the Wright Brothers, which is about the Tates, how they were involved in it. Dan Tate was Everett Tate's grandfather, and he was the only employee the Wright brothers had
Wow.
here on the Outer Banks. And then the other is I got talked into doing a little book about Wilbur Wright's dog, which he called Flyer, and that was the same name of his plane, but he called this little stray dog that came to him over in Paris when he was over in France, not Paris, but near where he was in France, showing off the plane.
Wow. Well, I reread Spunky Spot with our 7-year-old just to freshen up, and I was thinking, and not only did you teach about the species spot, but it also seemed that you had another message, you know, a little deeper. I know both of us were kind of wide-eyed. I don't want to ruin the story for anyone who hasn't read it, but you know, as you're telling him, watch out for the worms on the hooks, and so were there other meanings?
Well, that's not my meaning. It's interesting that that's not my meaning when I first write a children's book, but a good message seems to creep in, and
it does,
and it's been true in all of them. James Melvin, my illustrator, who has illustrated all of the children's books, says it's my mission, and I call it my little lessons of life. In promotions, I refer to it as that.
Right. Well, I think you did a great job, because we definitely, you know, took another, you know, we not only were learning about Spot, but it was also kind of like just learn to say no and listen to your teachers, which is a good message.
Yes. Well, Dare County bought a number of those books to give out to second graders, and then I went and read it to them, and they did that for about 4 years straight.
Wow.
The latest book is Wendy Whale.
Nice.
And that's the 36th one
wow.
in my nature series.
Wow, that's great. And one thing I noticed also with Spunky Spot, in the first page, you kind of dedicated to your father and your daddy for encouraging you to write these books. So was he the one who kind of like kept you going with your dream?
Well, no, my mother was an English major, and she taught school for a while, but mostly she stayed home to raise the children. And she was in a creative writing group as an older adult, and so I was influenced by both of them to write. Daddy gave me a typewriter when I graduated from college, and he said he wanted me to write for pay. And that was kind of interesting, because I had written plays and radio shows and for free,
right,
in high school. So he'd be very happy to see that I was doing the children's books. I'm sure he was
very proud, very proud. Yeah. And speaking of your father, I understand instead of writing a new children's book, you're onto some other different projects. Can you tell us what your latest project is?
Well, yes, my latest project, and I have here an interesting artifact from World War I.
Wow. My
father was in the sergeant in the Ordnance Department in World War I, stationed in Paris. And while he was there, he wrote to my mother, his sweetheart, before they were married. And she saved every one of those letters. So when my mother died, I found this box of letters, a historical treasure, I now realize. And I put it away until a year or two ago. And when I began to examine them and read them, I realized that they were just a spectacular group of letters written. We wrote one every week, chronological, and they're not love letters. They're letters that he calls them chats, like he's telling her all about what he's seeing and what he's doing and parades that he's seen. I mean, it's just remarkable, an eyewitness account of nearly 100 years ago. The letters are dated 1917, 1918, and 1919.
Wow. So do you have any plans to do things with those letters, to maybe share them with the public?
I want to seek a publisher, and I feel I'm so excited about the project. I feel that publishers will just jump at the chance.
I think they should, because in this day and age where it's all electronic, things like handwritten letters are precious.
Yeah, that is right.
So, and then just back to the children's books, why is it important to you to educate children about nature and the Outer Banks?
Oh, well, there is a story behind that. My grandson Scott is now 29, and he was only 4 years old when I, as a grandmother, started reading children's books to him, and I thought, well, I can write a children's book, and maybe even better than the ones I was reading to him, because I saw things that would bother him in the stories. For example, they would talk about a certain character, but it wasn't illustrated on that page. And so that was something I learned from reading to him, that you should show the appropriate illustration matching the text. And that's one of the things that teachers especially have said to me, that my illustrations, James's illustrations, so closely match my text. Well, that's because James and I work closely together, and he's illustrated all of the children's books. So.
Wow, that's definitely interesting and good to know, and I think it's important to, we're homeschooling he'll be 7 next week, so, we do a lot of reading, and the pictures really do make a difference.
They do.
Help explain what you're trying to say, and yeah, we love Spunky Spot, so I can't wait to read Wendy Whale.
Well, we certainly will leave Wendy Whale with you. And
great.
It's based on a true story. I've really been excited about this book. That here is a huge creature, and that's the subtitle, entitled The Huge Creature, that's right off our shores, a right whale, and here it is, 200,000 pounds, and 48 feet, it can be as 48 feet long, and then it's based on a true story of how a right whale adopted an orphan calf. And that's a very rare event, because she's so large that she has to catch a lot or strain a lot of food. She's a baleen whale, has to strain a lot of food, the plankton and krill, in order to live herself and feed one calf. They never have but one calf. A right whale only has one calf. And so, but she did finally accept this orphan calf. And they saw her swimming away with the 2 calves.
Wow. Oh, we can't wait to read it. So, so you've got your next upcoming project is your father's letters. Is there anything else that you're thinking of, or are you just going to concentrate on that?
Well, I'm concentrating on that the first, and I really don't know what book will be next in the children's books.
Well, I'm sure it'll be something awesome, just
Yeah.
like the others.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and finally, we know you're very busy, but we like to ask our guests, how would you spend your ideal day off in the Outer Banks?
How would I spend my, in a favorite way?
Yeah, what would be your
Well-
favorite thing to do?
I love to dance. I'd rather dance than eat. So I guess that's my favorite thing to do is dance.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thanks so much for coming to see us today.
Oh, you're surely welcome. It's been my pleasure.
And just so we can tell our readers, Wendy Whale, where is that available if somebody wanted to purchase Wendy Whale?
Well, it's available in gift shops and restaurants and different locations on the Outer Banks.
Do you have a website of any sort yet?
Oh, yes. You can go to Suzanne Tate, alloneword.com, and read all about the books and keep up with it there.
Nice.
And then on Facebook also. of
Facebook.
course.
Good. I'm glad to see that keeping
Oh,
with the
yeah.
social media is kind of necessary in this
Oh,
day
yeah.
and age.
Yes, that's right.
Great. Well, thanks again so much for coming today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm Sue Artz with OBX Entertainment.com and OBXE TV, and we'll see you soon.